afternoon, Namibia and the world, and welcome to yet another session here at the Government Information Center. I am your host for the afternoon, and my name is Desire Kahiha. This afternoon, we're talking about company registration in Namibia, and I have three gentlemen here that will be assisting us to find direction and also answer a few questions that we've had as the public pertaining to companies and their registrations and their obligations when it comes to that. I have Mr. Castro Shido, who is the head of marketing and branding at the Social Security Commission. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon.
I also have Mr. Okkert Jansen. He is an executive for marketing, corporate communication, and client management at the Business and Intellectual Property Authority, shortly known as BIPA. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I also have Mr. Rudiger Swart, who is the registration officer at the Namibia Revenue Agency, NAMRA. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Kicking it off very simple, a lot of people actually do not know about BIPA, and I believe this is one of those platforms that we can utilize to teach our people about the existence of BIPA. And with that, I would like to find out from Mr. Jansen, what or who is BIPA, when and why was it formed?
So BIPA is the competent authority for businesses in Namibia. And I'm glad we're talking everything company and business registration today. But just simply, BIPA was formed in 2016 by an act of parliament. We have a dual mandate. Sometimes a lot of people often think BIPA is only business registration.
Yeah.
But we have a dual mandate. The first one is to register businesses. The second one is to register and grant intellectual property rights. So based on our dual mandate, we have activities that are related to both. In terms of what our mandate is that in terms of what we're supposed to do is that we're supposed to contribute towards economic growth and development, income generation, as well as job creation.
Yeah.
So whatever we do is geared towards that. So if someone asks what we do, in simple terms, we are an enabler for a conducive business environment within Namibia.
Okay.
Simply put.
But I'll stay with you on that. We know what business is. I believe everybody or the majority of people know what business is. But what is intellectual property?
Also known as IP.
Yes.
So that's a very good question. And intellectual property is anything created by the mind. So it's in simple terms, and I'll try to be as simple as possible. It's the creation of the mind.
Okay.
So we create intellectual property on a daily basis, whether it's you writing a book, whether it's Rudiger writing a song, I understand he's a musician, and or simply the creation of this show today.
Yeah.
There's intellectual property rights, and intellectual property rights are used as an element that contribute towards economic development.
Okay, okay. I like the simplicity of that answer, though. It kind of brings it home for any person who's listening to understand it from their personal perspective as well. We move on to Mr. Swartz, and we would like to know, what is the role of NAMRA with regards to the company registration process? But before we get to that, NAMRA is fairly new. And I think in the same vein as we had with BIPA, I would like to find out from you, who and what is NAMRA? Why are they existing? Before we get to the next question.
Okay, NAMRA is actually just also created by Act of Parliament through Ministry of Finance, but it was actually the department which was previously known as Inland Revenue.
Okay.
And Inland Revenue and Customs and Excise, which was just conjoined together. And our mandate is just simple, to collect revenue for the state and just to educate the public in general why it is very important to pay your taxes.
Okay,
Yes.
but why did it need to be separated from the Ministry of Finance? Why couldn't it just stay as, let's say, a department or a directorate? Is there a particular reason why it had to be, moved out and become an agency, a standalone agency?
Okay, the main reason why it was actually created is because of, let's say, for effectiveness.
Okay.
So that we can deal with the public in a more closely way and just to serve our clients effectively.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Now, then we come back to the role of NAMRA with regards to company registration and that process.
Okay. When it comes to the company registration clause, like if every company has to be registered with BIPA, they need to register with us in order to get a tax certificate. What we call, sometimes it's having your TIN number, that which for the tax certificate is very important, because you need to, if you want to open a bank account, if you wanted to operate a business in Namibia, you have to have a bank account.
Yes.
And through that bank account, you need to declare all your income.
Yes, yes.
That's why it's very important for people to come and register for
Okay.
tax certificates.
Mr. Shido, we would also like to find out from you the role of Social Security Commission and its mandate with regards to company registration.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you again for the platform, and we rarely get this one.
Yeah.
Such an opportunity is, we really welcome as an SSC. I want to clearly put that the Social Security do not have a legal mandate per se, as per the company registration.
Yeah.
But however, part of our mandate is we want to register all companies that are employing employees.
Yes.
So our main focus is that when you have employees working for you, then you are compelled to register with the SSC. So a company can register without employees. One-man show, you are a self-employed person, that's fine.
Yeah.
We do not have a legal mandate to compel you to register. That's why self-employed people, they have been exempted from the law. They can register that on their own free will.
Yeah.
So, but for companies who employed employees, the Social Security Commission requires that company to register with the SEC.
Okay, okay. And I believe I learned something new today. I thought it was compulsory across board for everybody to, be registered with SSC, regardless of whether you're a one-man show or two-man show. As long as you run a business, I was under that impression. So you learn something new every single day. We come back to Mr. Jansen, and we would like to find out from you then, why is it necessary to register companies with BIPA?
So similar to what Mr. Chido said, it's not compulsory. The same applies for company registration. Anyone can trade in Namibia, but in terms of the law, you don't need to be registered. Okay. But what are the benefits? And I think that's what we're trying to sell today. What are the benefits of registration? So in order for us to ensure economic development and creating a conducive environment for business and investment to thrive, it is important to understand that investors, whether domestic or foreign, thrive on confidence, right? So if they have the confidence that this is an area or a country that operates and conduct business in a manner that is compliant to the law, they would easily place their money into Namibia or into a business. So let me make an example. The question is, would you do business with me? Would you invest $1 million of your hard-earned cash into my so-called business if I'm not registered? Number one, I don't have any registration documents. I can't show you any of my statements. I can't tell you who my shareholders are, who owns the business. Would you take that risk?
No.
Probably no. And that's where we get into. That is the benefit. Because once you have given assurance to your possible business partners that you are operating within a legal framework, it makes it so much easier. Because on incorporation of a company or a business, whether it's a company or CC, what basically happens is that a juristic entity or legal entity is established. So it takes on its own life. Unlike us as individuals that run businesses, we run it in our personal capacity as natural persons, which means there's an element of liability that now shifts from the natural person to the legal or juristic entity, whether that may be financial, whether it may be anything else. What other benefits are there? I mean, we have a government, and the government is one of the largest employers in the country. They contribute greatly towards economic development through tendering processes. So The minute that you are registered and you are compliant to all requirements, such as Social Security, you have your good standing with BIPA, with NAMRA, you are now able to participate into national tender processes. Similarly, towards markets external to Namibia, again, there are requirements in other countries that would, for instance, require your registration certificate. So you want to tap into a new market, or you want to do business with a foreign entity, that would be a requirement, and I think that is the importance of having your business registered.
I guess business in general is a trust-based thing, and you know, some of these registrations help to give confidence to the person who wants to invest, that they can trust you because of your attachment to these authorities and, you know, legal frameworks, as you're saying. Can one take it from that perspective?
To some extent, yes, but to a different extent is understanding how you run business, not as an individual, but that this business, I normally ask business owners, whether they are entrepreneurs or businessmen or women, I ask, do you own your business or does your business own you? And it's a question that it would seem tricky, but it's neither here or there, because at the end of the day, it needs to be understood that the money in the business is not your money. Whether you are the sole member or sole shareholder, it is still the money of the business. And that is very important. So doing business is not only about the trust. Yes, trust is one aspect thereof. But it's about being able to conduct business within the legal framework that has been established within a country. And you would also understand that, especially for companies that are more highly regulated compared to close corporations, that there are statutory requirements for you to be able to own a business and run a business. For instance, like the number of shareholders and directors that you can have within a business, AGMs that has to be done within a certain time period of the year. You have to submit certain statutory, you have statutory obligations as a business owner, which you have to submit on a yearly basis. And any other documents such as minutes, keeping records, and so forth. That is really the importance of running a business and being able to, at the end of the day, account for whatever you are doing within this business, because this business also becomes liable to be litigated against. And at the end of the day, if you don't run a business according to the fair and good business principles, you might put yourself into big problems.
That's true. That's true. We remind you that this is a conversation, as I always say. This is one of those platforms where we interact with you and want to hear from you, whether it's comments that you have, additions to what panelists are saying, or even questions, if you have questions that you want to pose. And you can find that possibility or that opportunity for you to take when you go onto our social media platforms, where you can drop us your comments or questions. And on Facebook, our handle there is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Facebook, Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. We are also live streaming from our YouTube platform, and our handle there is MICT Namibia on YouTube, MICT Namibia. While we wait for you to join us and give us your input on the show, we continue here with our panelists, and this is where we would like to know from Mr. Swartz, why is it important for a company to be in possession of a tax certificate, and what documents are required for that to be acquired?
Okay, as I said earlier, it's very important for a company to have a tax certificate, because if they want to trade, if they want to do operations in Namibia, they have to declare their income. They have to declare their income, and even to open a bank account, they still need a tax certificate. And the documents that are required for a registration of companies, it's the companies in CCs. It's you need to have a copy of your registration document, the one that you receive from BIPA. You need to have an accountant. In the case of CCs, it's accountants. In the case of PTYs, it's the auditor's letter, because you need to have a representative on our system which is capable of doing all your taxes. And then all the members in a company or CC should have valid Namibian tax numbers. Because at the end of the day, whatever they make, whatever profit they make from the companies, which they get like a profit for themselves, they also have to declare it in taxes. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Shido, you know, we asked a question earlier on with regards to the mandate and so on of SSC. And I don't know whether you'd still want to add on to that based on the next question that we have. And this speaks to the importance of company registration with SSC. Why is it important for companies to register with the Social Security Commission?
Thank you again. I want to emphasize on a point to say we are here to take care of the employees. We are here to take care of the employees that you employ at your company. Should they pick injury on duty, should they go on maternity leave, should they go on sick leave, these people need to be protected. So the SSC was established to look after the masses, which are outside there. So your company can be registered, but if your employees are not registered, so it's important to register your company so that the employees that are working under you can also benefit from the host of benefits that are here that the SSC offers. So it is important, let's take an example of a company that is not registered, but having employees that are working there and somebody fall down and pick injury on duty, or somebody now about to go on maternity leave, or somebody got sick, which is the condition that is out of the employer's will. So these types of issues come to the SSC, and it will hunt employers to say, okay, should you have registered me on time, I should have benefited from the SSC. Should you have registered me on time, the SSC would have paid my medical cost at the doctors because I pick injury here on duty. So it's important for each and every employer who employs an employee to register with the SSC. And also it's important, just to come back to what Mr. Johnson was saying, that the benefits that are there, that you cannot do business in Namibia because you need a good standing from Social Security. So the Social Security good standing, for you to be in good standing, you should have registered your business, you should have paid your contribution and assessment. So all the employees should be registered, and you should be a paid-up member. That is what it means you are in good standing now with us. So therefore, we issue you with a good standing certificate, and that allows you to do business in Namibia. So to answer the questions of is it important? Yes, it is important to register the business, because it allows businesses to do business with the government entities and private sectors.
But now, going back to what you said a bit with your previous mandate answer, and as well as what you're saying right now, I would want to ask, have you ever had a scenario where you have a company that's not necessarily registered with the SSC that has employees, but they want to be registered with the SSC? Have you ever had to deal with such a scenario, and how do you actually handle that?
Can you repeat the question?
You have a company that is unregistered. They're not registered with the Social Security Commission, but they have employees that want to register with the SSC. Can a person do, I don't know, this is where the question coming in. How does one then handle that? From your side as an employee, how can you deal with that? Can you go solo and, I don't know, register with SSC without necessarily going through your employer? How do you handle that as the SSC? Have you ever had such scenarios?
Unfortunately, the law is not allowing that.
Okay.
It says it is the responsibility of each and every employer to ensure that the employees employed by them are registered. So if you have an employer and employee relationship, so that means it is the responsibility of the employers to ensure that they take your documents, they go to SSC and register you as an employee working under them. So a person that can go solo is the person who is self-employed, because they are employers and referee at the same time. So they can do that all by themselves.
Yeah.
And they are not obliged by the law also to do that. And that's why the law is also giving them, if they want to do that.
Yeah.
If you are, say, you are an informal sector, you are selling kapana, or you are a baba, or any work that you do all by yourself without employing somebody else, the law said it's up to you whether you want to register. So, but we are urging people to say, please come and register, because there are various benefits that people are enjoying while you are outside there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that answers
Yes,
the
no,
question.
you did definitely answer the question. Mr. Jansen, what types of businesses are commonly found within the perimeters of the Republic?
So
Our republic, to be
maybe to
specific.
simplify the question, if anyone wants to register a business, what are their options? Is that what you're asking?
Nope.
Commonly
What types
found.
of businesses do we commonly find? Because we talk about your CCs, we talk about your PTYs and your LTDs, I think. So I think that is where we're looking
The
at.
business type,
yes,
exactly.
The business
Okay,
types,
so let me put it this way. So it's not commonly found, but what does the law allow? What type of business vehicles does the law allow?
Okay.
So in terms of the BIPA's mandate, we administered two different acts. The one is the Companies Act of 2004, and the one is the Close Corporations Act of 1988. And these two acts are the acts that deals with business registration. Now, under the Close Corporations Act, of course, you are able to register a close corporation. And then under the Companies Act, there are different types of companies. The first one is a private company. It's also known as a PTY, LTD. With this company, you'd be able to have between 2 and 50 shareholders, maximum 50 shareholders, and minimum 1 director. Okay? Whereas the second company is a public company, also known as a limited company. With this one, you have a minimum of, there's no maximum number of shareholding. Your shareholding is unlimited, but your directors is minimum of 7 directors. Then the third type of company is an association not for gain, and this company is incorporated in terms of Section 21 of the Companies Act, which is basically what we commonly refer to as an NGO or non-profit organization. And then lastly, we have external companies, which is basically a company that operates externally, let's say in Botswana, and wants to bring the formation of that company as it is registered in Botswana right over to Namibia. That is an external company. So these are the different types of company formations that you find within the Namibian law. Unfortunately, we don't have a provision for a sole proprietor. So our law is silent on that. What happens is previously, we used a defensive name, and I think NAMRA knows much about it, even Social Security, where people used to register a defensive name and then trade under that defensive name as an individual. Let's say Desire was doing her consultancy, but you didn't want it to be called Desire. You want it to be called, let's say, EDF Stationery. So you would register with BIPA a defensive name called EDF Stationery, and then you would trade under it as a single person. Now, what happens is that in 2020, we actually realized that the application of that provision in the law, which is Section 49(2) of the Companies Act, was wrongly interpreted, either wrongly interpreted or we used it incorrectly. And then we corrected it by saying that, you know, unfortunately for defensive names, it's only to defend your name and not to trade under it. So I hope I was able to clarify that.
Yes, no, you did. I learned two things today with that answer. I learned with regards to the mistakes that we made and how people traded with a defensive under the defensive name, and also the fact that we don't have sole proprietary, and also the fact that there's something called external
or foreign companies. But let me quickly come in there. So what is interesting is that BIPA, together with the Ministry of Trade, which is our line ministry, is in the process of reviewing the current laws that regulates business in Namibia. We hope to amalgamate the Companies Act and the Close Corporation Act and come up with one comprehensive law. In this law, we also would like to make provision then for sole proprietors, which the gap currently exists in the market.
Yes.
So just for those that are out there to know that is
coming.
happening. But it doesn't mean that an individual person cannot trade. Just looking at the 2018 labor force survey, one would be able to see that there are a lot more people, almost twice as many people trading within the informal labor market than there is in the formal labor market.
That's true.
I think back then it said about 700,000+ in the informal labor market, where there's only 400,000 in the formal labor market. And that can be easily equated to the, I mean, they have various indicators that depends how many hours you work, where you work, how often you work, and so forth. But that's indicative of the current situation that speaks to a number of people being able to work for themselves or only be able to work for a day or two for someone that also works for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a living document, as they say. That is your constitutions and your laws. And every single time they have to be reworked in order to adapt to our evolving, environments, regardless of whether it's on the social side, it's a business side, and so on. So it's good to know that things are in the workings for some of this. As we say, it's a conversation. We have somebody on the line from Walfish Bay. Good afternoon.
Regardless of the social side, the business side, and so on. So it's good to know that things are in making.
Caller, hello.
Yes, hello.
Is it possible for you to turn down your... Thank you.
Okay.
Guneko, how are you?
I'm doing good here.
We are well. How would you like to add to the conversation this afternoon?
Yes, I'm hearing a small question from the text. Yeah, my question is like, from the last budget when it was tabled, they were classifying the way how they get tax, how they get tax, which was the first tax they are getting from workers who are producing like close to 33 billion. And the second was used to be the top one. It was under the 1,000, whatever, was like 25, but now because of Corona, it came up to 15 billion.
Mr. Guneko, sorry, you were cutting a bit at the beginning of your question. Is it possible for you to just repeat it for us again, please?
To do what?
Can you just come again, just repeat it for us because you were breaking up there for a minute.
Okay, sorry for that. Okay, yeah, my first question was like the problem, the way that they told us how did they got the tax from whatever the whole total of money that's used for the building of budget. The first contributor to the tax was like the employees that was giving 20 billion. And then secondly, he gave like 1,000 countries that used to combine together and what? It was 15 billion. And the other one is the store, was giving 3 billion. My question, how can the store produce 3 billion if a lot of people and a lot of population is not working, which is 88%, and they are all buying things from the store. And even the money that was already taxed from all the employees, 95% they are coming to use it in the stores, which means the store is supposed to produce about 300 billion, and we end up getting 6 billion. How can that happen? It looks to me that there's no a good tracing of how...
Mr. Guneko?
Yes.
We are really struggling to figure out what it is that you're saying. Is it possible for you to maybe just speak to our technical guys or call us back? Or you can post the question on social media as well, because we're really struggling. The connection doesn't seem to be good.
Okay, maybe my radio is not, my phone is not very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pity we couldn't hear what Mr. Guneko had to say there, because it sounded like a very good question that he had, but we would not pick up all the elements of his question. I do hope that you are able to pose your question on our social media platforms where you can type it out there for us. We will still be able to get it, or maybe give us a call back, and hopefully the line will be better this time round. We continue at this point, and we do remind you that you can join the conversation. Our call line in the studio is 061, that is the area code. The number is 400 397. 400-397. Our social media platform, Facebook, you can find us at the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia, as well as on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is MICT Namibia. We continue while we wait for you to join us, and at this point I would like to ask from Mr. Swartz then, when is a company eligible for tax registration?
Company is eligible for tax registration the moment they are actually registered at BIPA.
Okay.
Yes, because once you get your company registered at BIPA, you are supposed to register also with Ministry of Finance. So the moment that you register with BIPA, you also come and register with with NAMRA.
and maybe just to tie in there, maybe it's not so much about eligibility, but that you are required by law. And that is why we have a good working relationship with both NAMRA and Social Security. Is the minute that an entity is registered with BIPA, we send a copy of their documentation to NAMRA, just in case that individual decided not to register for whatever reason, or they decide, or they forgot to go and register for the tax purposes. So just to know that when you register with BIPA, NAMRA already has your details.
You can't get away from it.
And I would like to do the same with Social Security. We just need to have an offline conversation.
And it's good, and I mean, it's the evolution that I'm talking about, where back in the days, the onus was on the individual themselves to approach these offices individually. But we have seen where the gaps are and the loopholes that people take advantage of, and you can hear from these conversations that the institutions are really trying very hard to ensure that these loopholes are closed. And at the end of the day, I like the way how Mr. Jansen is being fair about it. If somebody forgot, I mean, you didn't forget to register at BIPA, how do you forget to register at NAMRA? So as you're saying there, you have this, in place with NAMRA, and surely something can be worked out with Social Security. And I mean, it goes back to what I said and asked earlier on, and unfortunately as an employee, I can't register myself at Social Security. So hopefully these are some of those, elements that can be used to assist the masses also, to make sure that we continue to protect them better. Mr. Shido, what are the different criteria that various companies are eligible to be registered for under Social Security Commission?
Company registration, let me put it this way. We classify them as registered at BIPA or NAMRA.
Yeah.
If you register as a PTY, you come as a PTY. If you register as an investment CC, you come as an investment. Whichever that you registered with these relevant authorities, you come as you are. So we register you and classify you as such. So there are specific forms for specific entities as being classified. They can hear me.
Okay. Okay. No, I think, are there any particular criteria away from what you just mentioned right now?
Not necessarily. What we have is what we have, and there is no exemption or any other thing other than what I've just mentioned.
Okay.
So the criteria that is applied to all the companies as they come, as they are registered at BIPA, is the same criteria that we used to say, if you are a CC, here are the forms, and this is how you're registered, and this is how we assess you in terms of contribution that you pay per year.
Yeah.
Let's say a person that is in catering, this is just to lessen that for better understanding. If the person is in catering and will pay lesser assessment rates per year than a person who is in construction, because the risk involved is a bit different. Yeah. So a person that is in cleaning services probably will pay $10, and somebody who is in aviation will pay 100.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the risk involved. Yeah, because of the risk involved.
Yeah.
So the assessment of companies in terms of the contributions also varies.
Okay.
But that is only on injuries on duties.
Okay.
So we have two types of payment. We have a yearly assessment that we assess a company per year, based on the employees that are working there and the risk that is involved in that specific industry. And then we have a monthly contribution that each company requires to pay per month, and that is derived from the basic salary of the employees concerned. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Jansen, what are the cost implications for registration of these various types of companies that you mentioned earlier? And are there cost differences between the registration of local companies or businesses in comparison to non-local businesses?
So I think, Desire, that just for that question alone is the reason why I came here today. You know, because
finally we arrived.
We arrived, and the reason why I'm saying that is that there is a perception that to start a business in Namibia, a registered business, is expensive, which is not the case. The procedures to register a company may be a bit difficult, but the cost thereof is not as extensive. Just to give you an idea, to register a close corporation takes two processes. The first one is to do a reservation of your name, to be able to have a name, of course, and that will cost you 75 Namibian dollars with BIPA. Then once you have your name reserved, you will have then to submit your founding statement or your application for a founding statement, and that will cost you 150 Namibian dollars with BIPA. Of course, if you total that up, I'm not good at maths, maybe the NAMRA people would help me, but it's 225 for a close corporation. That's only the BIPA cost. However, in order for you to submit a close corporation, you also, like NAMRA said, you also need to have an accounting officer. And very often, individuals would pay an accounting officer an amount between $300 and $450 to give them a consent letter to act on their behalf. So just in short, it would be $225 to register with BIPA, but you do need an accounting letter, a consent letter, which may cost you in the range of $300 to $450. So minimum is about $525 to start a close corporation. I know there are consultants out there that charge 3 or 4 times that much, but of course their services, and I'm not going to speak to that because BIPA does not employ representatives to register entities at BIPA, because we are the competent authority and we cannot be judge, jury, and execution at the same time. But with companies, which is now your PTYs and your limiteds, as well as your Section 21, there's not a fixed cost to that. And the reason for that is it depends really, you pay per form, and it depends, for instance, sometimes how many directors do you have, what your share capital is, if you are an entity with share capital. For those, for Section 21 that does not have share capital, of course they wouldn't pay anything. But a minimum cost of, say, about $625 to register a company. Now, where the cost of a company becomes so expensive is that because the process of registration is so expensive, individuals are often left to go to a secretarial firm, an auditing firm, or a legal firm to set up the memorandum and articles of association, and that would cost you in the range of between 4,000 and 6,000 Namibian dollars. But that is not BIPA's cost, and I wanted to make it clear today. So BIPA's cost for a company would be minimum, say, about 600 and something, say 625, but it may be more depending on the number of directors. So the cost of business at BIPA is quite affordable, and I think with the review of our laws currently, we want to make it even more accessible to many more people currently in the informal market to be able to own businesses.
That's good. I think it's a very refreshing something to hear at a time where everything seems to be going up, you know, and to know that efforts are being put in place to try and make lives easier for Namibians. It's very welcomed. Thank you for that. We have Mr. Guneko who's calling us, or who called us previously from Walfish Bay. He's back on the line, and hopefully this time round technology won't fail us. Good afternoon again, Mr. Guneko.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Maybe now we can understand each other better. Technology is not friendly these days.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I quickly want to come to the question again. I don't want to waste your time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, man, it was like this. When it was like the way how they got the tax, they tell us that they got it mainly employees of Namibia, which are producing 26, and the other one was like African whatever contribution that they're giving, which are giving, like before was giving 25, now because of Corona it gives 15 million now, 18. For the third party was like the money that taking from taxing stores. My question was like, it was like 3 billion, which are very, very small. And you see a lot of businesses in Namibia, and everybody that is working, the tax money very going to use it in stock, plus minus 95%, and a lot of people, close to 50% that is not working. They are contributing, they are going to the stores to buy food and everything, which is supposed to be close to 300 billion that's supposed to be given a tax from the stores, and we are only getting 3 billion. I want to see, it is because of non-registered businesses, or why are we losing such a lot of amount? Thank you very much. Is it clear?
No, it's actually not quite clear, but I think
I got the gist of it.
Yes,
He was
I think
asking
we've-
about individual taxpayers, provisional taxpayers, probably tax and money that we receive from SACU, if I'm not mistaken, and why our tax, the total tax collection is still as low as it is. That's what I got. So
did we understand you correctly, Mr. Guneko? Okay.
lost the call.
I think for now, let us hope we got the context right. I'm glad you did. And maybe let's just try and address it from that perspective.
When it comes to actually our tax, collecting of our tax money being low, it's just merely to the fact of the declarations. People, sometimes people under-declare their income just to, score a bit on the taxes, especially when it comes to company, or sometimes even if a company trades, they don't declare their taxes. They don't declare their taxes, so that's why, our collection rate of taxes is very low.
So I think, unfortunately, we could do better if us as individuals and business owners were just a bit more honest.
Yes, if
And
not,
I think
if
that
we-
is
if we
where
are
one of
honest.
our biggest problem is with regards to that. Okay, Mr. Guneko, I hope we understood the gist of your question, and I hope we were able to answer that question with what Mr. Swartz had to explain now. We stay with Mr. Swartz, and we now ask a similar question as we asked Mr. Jansen earlier on with regards to cost, and we would like to know how much does it cost to register a company with NAMRA, and are the fees the same across board?
Yes, free. It's free.
Oh, okay.
So the
I don't think anybody was expecting that.
Yeah, the cost is the same across the board, so it's free.
So that's the answer to it. Simple as that. Free. For once you get to hear, it's free.
Maybe I can just come in, because I just wanted to make it clear to our viewers that it's not actually that companies register with NAMRA and Social Security.
Yeah.
It's not company registration. So company registration takes part at BIPA,
BIPA.
only. So
Okay.
it would be now these individual, it would be tax registration, or it would be Social Security registration,
Yes.
or so just for clarity that they don't have the mandate to legally register companies,
company,
but
yes.
they deal with registered companies that may register or may deal in their services. I just wanted a point of clarification.
No, thank you very much. Services and company registration. I think we needed to actually create that clarity there. Thank you very much, Mr. Jansen. And thank you, Mr. Swartz, for making me laugh this afternoon. It's free at NAMRA to register for the tax services, if I can call them that. Mr. Shivo, what documents are required for registration, and how long does the process take with the Social Security Commission?
Let's start with the cost. It's also free.
Okay. Let's start with the cost.
Yeah, so to register a business with the SSC, it's free. So we abolished that maybe some 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. And then we are requiring now businesses to register within 30 days from the date that they are registered with BIPA. don't know what is the problem. The registration is for free. And that takes about a day to a week.
Okay.
So the ones that goes up to a week, the companies that have more than 10 plus employees. Yeah, so government is the biggest employer, as Mr. Johnson has rightly put it earlier.
Yeah.
So they might come with the Ministry of Defense, maybe after the recruitment that they are going to do now, they come with 700 employees. So that can take us a week or 2 weeks to make sure that we capture this information right. But we do not require a fee. So the registration period, to answer your question, is it's a day to a week.
And documentation required?
For companies like CECs and PTYs, there is a form called Form 1.
Yeah.
For those that have registered the business, they know how does it look like. Form 1 and EAS 1 plus Form 3.
Okay.
So that is now allow you to register a business with 1 employee, because Form 3 you complete for each and every employee working there. So if you have 6 employees, you complete 6 Form 3s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so plus your Form 1 and EAS 1, that is for company. So for self-employed person, we use Form 3 and Form 4, okay? For domestic employees, for domestic employers, we use for EAS 3, Form 3 and Form 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are different types of form for these different types of registrations.
And the individual, what type of documents are they supposed to furnish? Birth certificate?
Okay, no, really not a birth certificate.
No, I'm just wondering. Like
yeah, for the law does not require us for you to submit your ID, if I have to rightly put it.
Yes.
But for our purpose to capture your information correctly, because this gives us problems when we come at a point of paying a claim. That your name should reflect as it appears on our system. So therefore, we kindly, we know it's not a law something document, but it requires that each and every employee that comes to the SSC should at least that Form 3 should be accompanied by a copy of an ID, and that doesn't need to be certified, because what we need is just a correct information on the ID to capture it right on our system.
Okay.
Yeah. So please do come and register, man. It's very important.
I like the way he is emphasizing on that, because I think sometimes we downplay the importance of some of these services. And once something does happen, that is when we want to now start scooting and running around. So really, I hear your undertone that cannot be emphasized enough. Mr. Jansen, there is something called a business name reservation. What is it? How does it differ from a business registration? Why is it important? And what are the procedural requirements and cost implications thereof?
So I did touch on it a bit earlier, but let me use an analogy. So if a child is born today, especially in our culture, that child, there's normally a naming ceremony. You have to take the child out after a month, you know, the whole traditional things.
Yes.
But the very important thing is for you to register that child with the Ministry of Home Affairs. You need to give that child a name. It's the same concept. A business is born the minute that you register it. But the only difference is that before the business is born, you need to name it, unlike with a child. And I know some of us already check up names for our kids. You know, I want to call them Orlando. The child is not even born, you have a name. You know?
Exactly.
So it's the same concept that this legal entity, before it is born, it needs a name. And that process is called name registration. It is in terms of Section 49 to 52 of the Companies Act, where you are required to have a name for an entity.
Okay.
Now, because our register is so big, we have about 200,000 businesses registered with BIPA. It is important to know that there are certain guidelines for registration of or reservation of a name. We have a lot of, let me make an example, Amushes. Amushe Trading Enterprises, Amushe Catering, Amushe this. So in 2019, we came up with new directives that act as a guideline on how to what names are applicable and what names are not. So very important for us to continue approving new names. It is important for whoever is out there and would like to register a name to know that your name must have a prefix and it must have a descriptor. So I can't just come in there and say, I want a business called Platform. Platform what? What does your business do? Is it platform advertising? Is it platform marketing? Is it platform construction? So platform would serve as my prefix, and marketing or advertising would serve as my descriptor, or the business or the area or sector which I'm in. How much it costs, and I don't want to take much time, it's only $75. Okay. That name, once you register it, it takes about 2 to 3 working days. And once it is reserved, you then need to go on to the process of incorporation, of registering either your CC or your company. Okay. Now, if you don't do that from the date of reservation of a name or approval, that name stays valid for a period of 60 days. After 60 days, it expires and it goes back into the public domain. So if someone else comes and they want Desire Catering and you reserved it and it expired, then unfortunately that person would get it before you have the opportunity to re-reserve that name again.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it's a mouthful, but...
Ish, 60 days.
Yeah.
60 days, it's all you have once you reserve a name. And I think it's good that you actually clarified that for us. And you can't trade under just a business name reservation.
Unfortunately,
you have to go through the whole process up until its end. So please let us hear and get that clearly. Do not think that once you've got your name reserved that now you are free to start trading. You have to complete the trading, the business registration process first. Yeah. Mr. Jansen, I stay with you now, and you also mentioned something earlier, very much earlier in our show, and this is where I would like to know from you, what is a founding statement, and why is it necessary for one to obtain it, and how long does it take to be issued?
So a founding statement, Mr. Chido mentioned a number of forms. I even got confused. There are so many now. The same is with BIPA. We have forms called CC1, CC2, CC this, and so forth. But a founding statement is basically your document of incorporation for a close corporation.
Okay.
This is your application that you would lodge with the Registrar of Companies to say that I wish to own, or I wish to register or incorporate this business. It's a 9-page document currently. For in-person registration, and this is where you furnish us with all the details, like the name that was approved during the first stage, when your end of financial year would be, what activities will you undertake, your registered address for the business, your registered contact details for the business, who your accounting officer would be, what is their address, then, of course, who the members would be, and when we talk about members, it's those that that hold interest, almost like shareholders, but for a close corporation, who they are, what is the share allocation. Maybe you and I are in the same business, but I own 60% and you own 40%. Yeah. And then, of course, other details such as your ID numbers and so forth. And that is the founding statement, and it gets submitted or lodged once your name is reserved. It takes about 5 to 7 days for registration of that entity, and once it is registered, you get it back. And that is also the document that you use to go to Social Security, that you use to go to NAMRA, that you use to go to the bank. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is that BIPA is the starting point. Yeah, I want us to understand that we are an enabler of this environment, because that is the birth
like
of
the
your
key.
business, and without that, you can't go anywhere. So I'm available. They must come to BIPA tomorrow and start their business. Don't delay any further. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, BIPA is the key to open the door.
It's the key.
Yes, and to quickly add, if I may.
Yes.
I think you have asked earlier as to what documentations to attach, as in birth certificate, as you mentioned. But the BIPA founding statement, when you register business with the SSC, we require a copy of that. So that at least we know that this entity is registered with
BIPA.
Yes, with BIPA. So plus, together with your Form 1s and all these series of forms that I've mentioned, there should be a copy of your founding statement as well to be attached when you register business. Thank you to have brought that one.
You see the connection between the various institutions here, and as Mr. Jansen is saying, they are the key. So you have to make sure that you're registered with them first before you are even able to knock on any other door. I like the way you emphasize on that, the key, starting enabler. And then we go to Mr. Swartz here, and quick one because time is running out on us. Does NAMRA have an option of an online text registration? If yes, what is the procedure thereof?
Yes, we do. Our website address is www.itas.namra.org.na.
Wow.
Yeah, mouthful.
That's a
www.itas.namra.org.na.
NA.
Yes.
Okay.
Once you are there, you will get to our portal, our ITAS portal. Then you've got an option of to register or to link an existing company. Because
Okay.
there's two options.
Yeah.
One is to, if you want to register a new company, you can register it through our portal. Or if you already have an existing TIN number, you can link it through there. Then you can be able to do all your submission stuff online. So
Okay.
yes.
I think there's a quick question here that I will tie in with my next question with Mr. Jansen. I think the question is there a BIPA office in Ondangwa?
Unfortunately not. So BIPA only has 2 registered offices, that is the Windhoek one and our Walfish Bay office.
Okay.
But because we fall under the Ministry of Trade, we use the Ministry of Trade offices to assist us in application submissions and dispatching, and then information sharing. So the Ministry of Trade does not have the legal mandate to register. So, but if I'm in Ondangwa or wherever the Ministry of Trade office is, be it in Rundu or Katima, I can go and submit my documentation. They would then send it to head office in Windhoek. We would do the registration as the registrar, very important, and then we would dispatch it back to Ondangwa or Katima
The
MIT
Ministry of
office
Trade offices,
for them to again collect that.
Okay, so the MIT just acts as a facilitator for submissions and dispatchments
Correct,
on your
yes.
behalf. Okay, bringing services to the people closer in any means that we can. In the same vein that I asked Mr. Swartz now with regards to online platforms, in recent years, the Namibia Investment Center, the NIC, was launched as an online business registration platform. Was this a BIPA project? And if yes, is it operational? What has the buy-in been like from, people in the business environment? And what are some of the challenges that you've had to face under that project?
I think it's a very important question because this is what we call, it still resorts under the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade. And it is known, the platform is known as the Integrated Client Service Facility, also very often called the ICSF. So this was an integrated platform for investment purposes, where it's almost like a one-stop shop, where if an investor wants to register their business, they are able to do so. At the same time, they would be able to register for tax, they would be able to get a fitness certificate, and they would be able to get their social security registration done. So the only challenge is that since we launched it in December 2020, unfortunately BIPA was one of the only entities that really made use of this platform. And it was also limited because we could only register CCs and names on this platform and not companies. But unfortunately, due to some technical issues over the last 4 to 5 months, the platform has been offline. And we are working hard. I think yesterday, saw an email from one of my colleagues for us to restore it. But the good news that I would want to bring is that that is not a BIPA system. That was a government system. But BIPA is, again, like we are reviewing our laws, we are also in the process of digital transformation and automation, which means that we are in the process of procuring a new registration system that would be online, as effective as NAMRA, but of course it is nothing in the next few months. We are looking at a timeline of about 12 to 18 months for us to complete this, and in that sense we would be able to be more effective. Then we would, wherever you are, from your cell phone, from an app, you'd be able to register your business, get certificates from there, and perhaps also integrate into Social Security and NAMRA and all other entities that it may require.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and at this point, we do need to bid you farewell. Thank you very much for joining our session this afternoon, and thank you very much for the panelists for availing their time for us to dissect this particular topic. From myself, Desire Kahia, and my production crew is bye-bye. Till tomorrow.